Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time we're going to be taking a look at the state of Star Wars collecting in 2022 and how it can appear a little bit daunting, particularly if you're a brand new collector. We'll also take a quick look at the recent Vectis auction where there were some choice Star Wars items under the hammer. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. So this year I've made a start of really going through my Star Wars collection in detail, and I'm looking at, well, predominantly my vintage figures first of all, and I'm looking at ones which aren't quite up to scratch, and I'm looking to upgrade them. I've also been on the lookout for about half a dozen or so vintage carded figures that I've either replaced or I've got rid of lower grade ones, and I'm looking to get nice prime examples. So I've been keeping my eye on the Facebook groups, which do seem to be quite a rich source for vintage Star Wars stuff. Obviously eBay for buying and selling vintage Star Wars, as well as even Vectis auctions, which I've started to keep a bit more of a sharper eye on because there's definitely stuff turning up there. Now that I've started actively upgrading my collection, to be honest, I'm really shocked at the prices that some of this is actually going for, and you don't actually realise or really pay much attention to the prices until you go out to try and buy it. So that's when you think, blimmin' heck, that is big money. It seems clear to me that the most top-end items, if they've been graded, seem to be the ones that are fetching the most money. And some of this is going for literally eye-watering prices. Just unbelievable. So I really enjoy watching the videos of my friend John over in America. He's the action figure grader on YouTube, and he does regular videos where he looks at the vintage Star Wars market, as well as all aspects of Star Wars collecting, the CGC comics, for example. I mean, everything. Recently did one on video games, which was fantastic. But he does at least once a week, he does a video on recent sales of vintage Star Wars collectibles. Boy, oh boy, some of the prices in that. There just seems to be no end in sight. It's just incredible. Watching those videos, it does appear as if there's some very big fish, or whales in fact, coming into the hobby who are buying beloved Star Wars collectibles as investments, and they're picking up the very choice pieces. Look at Hake's auction, for example, with some of the prices where key items have been fetching on that, and they're even superseding some of the key comic prices. And I think these investors are coming in, maybe looking at it as a better investment than, say, traditional stocks and shares or commodities. But I think that's one of the reasons that's driving up the prices of real choice items in the world of vintage Star Wars. The offshot of this, of course, is that I feel that collectors today just coming into the hobby who may have found a renewed interest through watching The Mandalorian or the Book of Boba Fett, or even through the Lego games, think, oh, I'd love to get some of my old Star Wars figures back. They take a look at the prices that they're going for on eBay and go, blimmin' heck, this is going to be an expensive little job. And yeah, even when you get the figures, you almost have to pay the same amount again just to get the original weapons. So it can be quite a daunting task. And I can't help but think that the hobby is starting to price people out of collecting to begin with, because it's just got so expensive for what were very, very mass-produced items back in the day. So it's not all doom and gloom, and there certainly are bargains out there to be had. So if you do, keep an eye on the Facebook groups, keep an eye on eBay for the odd buy it now, and be ready to pounce. Have the money ready, put your money where your mouth is, and go for it at that exact time, and you're there just at the right moment. There are bargains to be had, but you do need to be patient, and I think patience is absolutely the key with this. So I've got this little list of stuff that I'm looking to upgrade or to find, and I'm just waiting for the right one to come along, and then I grab it. One example of this recently was a little R5D4, the loose R5D4 action figure. Now mine was my original one. It had got quite faded and dirty over the years, a little bit sun faded as well, where it's been on display for 3 decades. And as I said, I'm going back and upgrading my entire vintage collection. So I got that little one out, and I thought, I've got to get a better version. So I was watching a few of the Facebook groups that I frequent, looking for particular bargains. I was keeping an eye on eBay, and every time a nice one came up at my sort of budget, which was sort of between 30 and 40 for that one, I just wasn't quick enough, and someone got in there before me. But lo and behold, on a Facebook group, a chap put up a whole batch of graded figures, and this particular graded R5D4 was an 85, which is pretty high, but a couple of the pegs inside have broken, and I was able to get it for my top end price of £40, but that included the postage. When I got it, I got my brother-in-law to actually take it out of its plastic coffin because I wanted this R5 out on display. And it looks absolutely fantastic. I'm over the moon with it. And I sold my old one back on eBay and it went for £21. So in actual fact, I've upgraded that particular figure. It's only cost me £19. And I've gone for a very so-so one to an absolute stonking mint one. So that was a real success story. And I've done the same with a loose Jawa recently, a cloth cape Jawa, and also a Stormtrooper figure, which was really, really faded. And I was looking for a better copy. So bargains are out there, but you just have to be patient and be ready to pounce. But what about the prices being realised at the auction houses? And I'm talking specifically just last week as I film this of the recent Vectis auctions. Now, I've gone back over the Vectis catalogue, and if you log into their website, you can see all the completed prices. So it's really, really good to get like a handle on the British market at least. Although by all means, they sell right around the world, Vectis. So and they have bidders who bid from right around the world. But it's nice to see it all in pounds, and you do get to see some very, very nice items go through their hands. Now, looking at their last auction, yes, there was definitely some really high-priced items, and I'll go through those in a minute. But on the whole, I thought that the majority of the play sets and the majority of the carded figures were just about right, or in some cases, they were a little bit below market rate. So I thought, well, that's pretty good. Now, obviously in the UK, we're experiencing very high energy bills, and you know, you could say we're on the precipice of a little mini recession, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. So perhaps people are tightening their wallets at the moment. So maybe the money just wasn't flowing quite as freely. But looking at some of the footage that I've seen from that auction, a lot of the bids came from people either online or on the phone. It wasn't from people actually in the room. Now, there was a pretty mid-grade Luke Besbin tri-logo figure. Now, that one sold for an astonishing £2,000, and it had a bit of a crushed bubble as well. And then you've got to add on, it'll either be a 25% or a 30% Vectis commission on top of that. So potentially 2,600 for that Luke Besbin figure. And that to me seemed very, very high. There was quite a bit of ungraded last 17 figures. Now, the two top ones, which really made me think, wow, was an unboxed, ungraded R2-D2 pop-up lightsaber. That went for $680, amazingly, and then 30% on top. And an unboxed yak face, no weapon, no nothing, just the figure, admittedly mint, but not graded, £750 plus 30% commission. That seems absolutely bananas for that figure. But hey, what do I know? Now, the highlight of the auction was a Palatoy shop display item. Now, it was a bit like a fish tank. It was a big square, and it had like a little mini rig in, a Scout Walker, an Ewok combat glider suspended, and then a selection of Return of the Jedi Endor-related figures in it. Now, back in the day, sort of in the mid-90s, I think about 96, 97, when I was trading as a dealer, we had a shop in Plymouth selling a lot of vintage Star Wars. We had a call from a customer who actually had one of these in his room. So I went round his house, this is in Plymouth, and he had the exact one that was sold at Vectis recently. And his was in a bit of a state. There was a lot of the figures had fallen over because they're like glued in place. And the mini rig was on its side. But predominantly the outside of the fish tank, the Perspex display, was literally covered in stickers. And it wasn't like Empire or Jedi stickers. It was covered in football Panini stickers. And it was in a right state. Yes, it could have been cleaned up on reflection, but it was so tatty and in such a state, it would have needed a proper repair job. And he wanted 50 quid for it at the time, so I turned him down. The one at Vectis last week sold for an astonishing, and admittedly this was pretty much perfect, £13,000 plus 30% auctioneer's commission. So you're talking, what, 15, 16,000 for that one. So quite an amazing price. So there you go, that's my thoughts on the current state of collecting Star Wars at the moment. I think there are bargains to be had if you're patient, but on the whole, the prices just seem to be going absolutely bananas. And it looks like there's no end in sight. Maybe, just maybe, prices have reached a peak and the real rare, absolute, not one of a kind, but the absolute top tier 1% of collectibles, particularly graded, are going to continue to climb. But the more run-of-the-mill, your standard sort of carded figures, the more common loose action figures, maybe those prices have peaked and they might even drop a little bit over the next sort of 6 months or so. But at the moment, Star Wars collecting is just crazy, and I think do pay absolute attention and don't pay too much, because I feel a little change in the market is probably just around the corner. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you found it a little bit thought-provoking about the state of the hobby today. If you have enjoyed it, do please hit the like button below. Do please hit the subscribe button if you've not already for regular vintage Star Wars content, and I'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. Bye.